I'm so excited to introduce Fee Waybill of the Tubes coming up.
Welcome to 15 Minutes with Chuck, where we feature interviews with music artists, entertainers, scientists, and more. Here's your host, a software consultant, teacher, and space enthusiast, Chuck Fields.
Hello, thanks so much for joining me today. Do you remember She's a Beauty? Who can forget that amazing #1 hit way back from 1983? Well, I'm pleased to introduce Fee Waybill, the lead singer of the Tubes. Now, the Tubes are currently on tour presenting their 1983 album, Outside Inside, in its entirety, including the #1 hit, She's a Beauty, plus The Tip of My Tongue and The Monkey Time. Fee also recently released his solo album called Fee Waybill Rides Again. Fee joins me today to talk about their tour and their amazing music.
15 Minutes with Chuck.
Fee, thank you so much for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember this because I know you have hundreds of interviews, but we actually spoke, my gosh, it's been 2 years ago.
Oh, yeah.
But we didn't speak for Zoom. So this is the first time seeing you. So thank you again for joining me. Really appreciate to have you here.
Okay, well, it's my pleasure.
Well, I tell you, one thing I'm really excited about is I was thinking today that, you formed the Tubes, you became lead singer of the Tubes in 72. That's 50 years ago. 50 years ago. And here you are
years ago.
Tour again. How's it feel?
50 years ago. God, it's unbelievable, isn't it? Yeah, it's 50 years. Actually, we were gonna call this the 50-year anniversary tour, but our first record actually wasn't until 75. Okay. So we'll do it again in 3 years.
That sounds awesome. Well, one thing I love about this tour in particular is it's the Outside Inside tour. Yep. And for our listeners out there that I'm sure they're familiar with the Outside Inside album, She's a Beauty, one of your famous hits on there, Tip of My Tongue, Monkey Time, Drums. Right. I love that song. That's what the tour is about. You're going to perform that in its entirety. So can you tell us more about that? What can the audience expect?
Well, we're going to do it top to bottom in order. Nice. We did it last tour. We did Completion Backward, and we just went so well. And it just, it's such a great thing to do a whole record. We've been rehearsing. We haven't played some of those songs like No, Not Again or Fantastic Delusion. We haven't played those for what? 39 years.
Wow. Yeah.
Since 83. So, 37 years.
Oh, it's such a good album. I actually listened to that today because I haven't listened to the album in its entirety for a long time either. Yeah. And I was like, man, these songs bring me back. And I was just wondering, going back to 83 when the album came out, I'm thinking, She's a Beauty hit #1. And that was when, MTV was all the rave with videos and stuff. And you had that awesome video. I still remember seeing that for the first time. What was it like when She's a Beauty hit #1? What were you thinking?
We were all stunned. We were stunned because, we knew it was a great song. I knew that it was a great song, and with David Foster's help and Steve Lukather's help and the band, and we knew it was a great song. And after we had, come really close on the album before with Talk to You Later and Don't Want to Wait Anymore. Talk to You Later went to #1 in like 15 countries other than the United States.
Another awesome song.
We wanted them to release it here. And then when we wrote She's a Beauty, we thought, well, this is the rock song that's going to make it. We're going to go over the top with this rock song because, they wanted a ballad in 81 with the Completion Backward, and, ballads were but we were never really a ballad band. And we knew that this rock song, we'd be playing it forever, for sure. It just something about it, It just was like instant for us.
Well, I tell you, I've been just impressed with all your repertoire. I want to talk about your solo album in a bit, but first I want to still go back to the Tubes. How did you guys get your name? How did you come up with the Tubes? Where'd that come from?
Well, we before we were the Tubes, we were the Beans.
The Beans.
The Beans. it was Bill Spooner's band was called the Beans, and Roger and Prairie and I joined Bill's band, and we were the Beans. But then shortly thereafter, a band from New Jersey came out with an album, and their name was the Beans. And so, and we didn't have a record. This was, 72, 73. We didn't have a record. And so we had no right to the name. And we decided everyone would, we had we had the Gas Men. And we had a whole list of possibilities. And so we couldn't decide on what to do. And so we said, okay, well, let's everybody come up with 10 names, your favorite 10 names. We'll cut them up into little strips of paper with the name on them, and we'll put them in a hat, and we'll let our dog pick out the winner.
The dog, Sandwich. His name was Sandwich. He was a Ridgeback. Oh, and nice. We lived in San Francisco. And so I think it was Mike who came up with the name, and he put mayonnaise on his strip of paper. And Sandwich went right for the mayonnaise, picked it out, and we went, oh, okay, well, he picked it. And what the name he had was Tubes, Rods, and Bulbs. Tubes, Rods, and Bulbs. And we were going, what? Tubes, Rods, and what? First of all, it's a tongue twister. Second of all, they'll end up shortening it to TRB. And he said, well, tubes, rods, and bulbs, they're different kinds of cells of the eyeball. Wow.
We went, oh, well, that's good. That's visual because we're so visual. So let's just make it the tubes. Let's cut out rods and bulbs and just make it the tubes. And, it can be boob tubes or fallopian tubes or cathode ray tubes or anything having to do with TV and televisions. And we grew up in Phoenix, Arizona. Okay. And Phoenix is really, really hot. Mm-hmm. And most of the year. And so what do? You stay inside and you watch TV all day long, and you watch game shows, and you watch cowboy shows, and you watch, soap operas. And so we were all TV junkies, and we thought, oh, this is so perfect. This is what it's all about. Our childhood watching tubes, watching the tube and we wanted it to be boob tube, but you can't be, you can't. That's not.
I like the tubes. I think, it obviously stuck and it made history. Now, I tell you, I'm still trying to get over. So a dog named Sandwich picked the name with the mayonnaise on it. That makes so much sense even more.
That's right.
That's perfect.
That's the true story.
Fee, I tell you, I want to talk real quick about your solo album that you came out with, your third one, Fee Waybill Rides Again.
Right.
I personally love that album. It debuted in the top 10 on Amazon's new release chart. Yeah. It doesn't surprise me. Again, the songs are amazing. I understand Richard Marx is a friend of yours, and he encouraged you to write the album. Tell me more about that.
Richard and I have been best friends pretty much since 1983. He showed up in the studio. Actually, when we were doing She's a Beauty, he showed up. He was a young kid from Chicago, and he had placed a song in LA with Lionel Richie. And he told Lionel, I want to meet David Foster. I think he's a great producer. So Lionel set it up for him to show up at a tubes session with David Foster. And he did. And he sat in the back of the room while we were trying to do, recording She's a Beauty. And at the end of the session, he came up to me and he said, I really like your lyrics. I've been following you guys. And would you write a song with me? And I went, who were you? Or where'd you come from? And he said, well, and he told me his story. And I said, okay, fine. So we wrote a song together. And then we wrote another song together. And then, I did my first solo album, Read My Lips. And the song we wrote it was called Who Loves Ya Baby, which is, remember, from Kojak.
Yeah.
And so we just, he ended up moving out to LA, and we just became friends. We started writing songs for other people and placing songs. And we wrote that number one song for Vixen,
Yeah.
Living on the Edge of a Broken Heart. Remember
Oh
that?
my gosh. Yeah. I didn't know you wrote that. That's awesome.
Yeah. And we just started placing songs all over the place. And so then in about 88, 89, 5 or 6 years later, he decided, I want to be a singer. I want to do gigs. And so he got a deal and at Manhattan Records, a division of Capitol. And I started writing, and I wrote a bunch of songs on that. I think I wrote first 4 songs lyrically on that first record. Wow. And it took off. I mean, he sold 3 million records on the first release.
Wow. Incredible.
And then, so I kept writing with him and hanging out and writing. And actually, the way this record came about, he had 3 sons. And he married this girl, Cynthia Rhodes, who used to be a tubes dancer, which is kind of weird.
Yeah.
He didn't meet her through us. He met her completely separately.
Wow.
But he moved back to Chicago because he wanted to raise his sons in Chicago and not LA. And so I used to go out to Chicago every summer, and we would do a boys only vacation. And we did this for years and years when the boys were young, and they had a cabin. His dad had a cabin in Minocqua, Wisconsin, which is way up in the North Woods, way up the top of Wisconsin.
That's great.
And we would get the boys in the car and we'd drive to Minocqua and we'd hang out in the cabin for a week. And we'd, go fishing and go-kart riding and horseback and just do a bunch of boys stuff. And we did this year after year after year. And then it was 2013. And I went out for the summer, and we graduated to more exciting boys trips like whitewater rafting in Cody, Wyoming. And
there you go.
We did all kinds of stuff. And so that year, I got out there, and the boys said, we actually don't want to go on the vacation. We want to hang out with our girlfriends. And so,
yeah,
what do you mean? I came all the way. And so Richard said, well, let's go write a song. He had a studio in his house, and he lived in Lake Forest, up in North Chicago, above Chicago, and like Highland Park kind of area. And so we went out to the studio and we wrote the first song on the record. We wrote Faker.
Faker's awesome.
And he said, gosh, and it was kind of a guitar-centric, kind of an 80s kind of sounding guitar rock song. He said, let's make a record. He said, you haven't done a record. My previous solo record was 98. So that was 15 years ago. He said, let's make a record. And so I said, okay. And so we wrote a couple more songs, and then I went back to LA, and a year or so passed, or maybe 2, and then we finally got together again and wrote another one, and finally in 2000, what was it, 18, I believe, I think 2018, he moved to LA. Mm-hmm. And he said, let's finish this. I mean, we started this 6 years ago. Let's finish it. And so we started booking time and writing songs and doing overdubs, and we spent the rest of that year, 2018, working on the rest of the record, and or maybe it was 2019. But anyway, what we got ready, we mixed and mastered, and we got ready, and we're looking for a deal. And then what happened? Pandemic.
Yeah. Little thing called COVID.
Yeah, a pandemic. And okay, so we thought, well, this is screwed. Let's just forget about it. And then we went, no, let's just release it ourselves. And people are sitting around quarantined with nothing to listen to that's new. And let's just do it anyway. And so we did. So we released it in, I think it was April or May of 2020. And
yeah, and it's phenomenal. Again, audience out there, Fee Waybill Rides Again. Highly recommend. Yeah, check it out.
I'm really proud of it.
You should be, because I tell you, your creativity shines through. I love how your first thought of, we can't do boys trip, let's get creative. Let's write a song, because I want to talk real quick, kind of lastly, talk about your creativity. I mean, because not only do you sing phenomenally, but you also dance and act. You've been on the big screen, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. You've been on the theatrical stage where you played the role of Frankenfurter from, of course, Rocky Horror Picture Show, and King Arthur in Spamalot. Tell me more about that. That's interesting.
I love the stage. I love, when I was a kid, I always wanted to be an actor. I wanted to be in movies, and then I got kind of hooked on the stage. When I was in high school, we had a great theater director in my high school, Scottsdale High in Arizona. And we would do 3 or 4 musicals. I did Music Man and Sound of Music and Camelot. And just Little Abner and all these musicals. And I just said, I love the stage. That's where I should be. I don't want to stand around for 30 minutes waiting for take 50 of some TV series or something. I want to do the stage. And so I just continued to stay with the stage. And I work at this theater, this summer stock theater in Augusta, Michigan, which is outside of Kalamazoo. It's called the Barn Theater. And they do about 8 plays every summer. And that's where I've done Rocky Horror for, 100 times. I did Spamalot there, which is the greatest play I've ever done. Spamalot is classic. I got to meet Eric Idle once at a party here in LA, and I just gushed. I was so embarrassing. Oh my God, Eric Idle, you're the greatest. I played King Arthur. And he's going, yeah, okay. Yeah. Okay, just relax. And so I found my world on the stage, and I can lose myself, and I can do these characters. I can do Quaalude. I can do the game show guy. I can do Bondage. I can do Johnny Bugger. I can do all these other people that are inside me. And I lose it. Sometimes I completely lose it and get really whacked and carried away. But it's just like a fantasy world for me. And I'm lucky I get to do this. I get to freak out and be some other psycho person. It's great.
Oh, Fee, you're so talented. I mean, it comes through in your music. It comes through in just your life and your passion for, it's just everything, even poetry. I'm still working on that second book, I think, of poetry, right?
I am working on the second book. Yeah. And I don't know. I'm so lucky, and my voice has really held up over the years, and I'm looking so forward to getting out on this Outside Inside tour. It's been so long. I've been a real pain in the ass for my wife, I have to say.
She's like, go on the road, Fee. Come on, get out there. Yeah, you need to be out there. The stage is calling you.
Yeah. Oh, and when it first happened, I was, oh my God, my world is over, that it'll never come back. And I was depressed, and I was, and she said, honey, it's going to come back. It is. We'll get over this. We'll get through it. Something will happen, and you'll get back out there on the stage. You'll be okay. Just have faith, have faith.
Absolutely.
So okay. I guess so. Okay. And so I still have faith, and I still, when I was a hippie years ago in the 70s, we used to read the I Ching, the I Ching, the Chinese book of changes. And you ask it a question and you throw the coins, and then the book tells you the answer. You look it up and you find the answer. And so I did it. I still remember this, and I did it. I threw the coins, and my question was, what is my purpose on this planet? And it came up, and I threw the coins, and it came up, and I looked it up, and the answer was taming of the small, bringing joy to the small one by one. And I thought, yeah, that's what I do. I bring joy to these people one at a time. When and they're in the front row looking at me with their, googly eyes going, oh my God. And I can feel the joy pouring out of them, and the joy is pouring out of me to them. And it's just It's a wonderful thing. It's a wonderful thing.
Fee, I think it's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that, because that's who you are. I mean, you've made such an impact on so many people, including me and stuff. I just want to thank you for your awesome music, for your awesome career. I want to thank you so much for joining me today. Really appreciate it.
Well, it's my pleasure, Chuck. It's my pleasure.
15 Minutes with Chuck.
Well, I really enjoyed my conversation with Fee today, and I hope you did too. I'm so excited about their tour and about their presentation of Outside Inside. I think it's going to be phenomenal. If you'd like to check out their tour or learn more about them, just go to their website at thetubes.com. I want to thank Fee for joining me today. I want to thank you for joining us as well. If you can do us a small favor and share this episode with a friend or like it, we'd certainly appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you next time. God bless.